Okay, let's break this thing down. So let's go back to the beginning here. First things first, we are in the heavy tuning of drop C. We're playing in the key of C minor to match that naturally, and we're at 214 BPM, which is pretty quick, honestly, for a quarter note. This entire riff just revolves around a 2-measure arpeggio pattern that we sequence through different chords in the key of C minor. And yeah, this is in 7/8 for the most part, which gives us this pretty nice accent grouping of 2, 2, and 3, right? That adds up to 7 eighth notes per measure. And that's something that's pretty standard for all odd time signatures. Your groups of 2 and 3 are going to equate to however many eighth notes you have in the measure. Okay, and that's how you're going to accent. That's where your natural, melodic or rhythmic accents are going to happen. All right, so the contour of this arpeggio pattern is really nice. If you take a look, it's pretty varied. If you were to connect these dots, it's not just straight up and down. We have some string skipping. We have some pretty far away intervals, more than an octave here, because of our tuning, right? And yeah, it's bulletproof. We're pretty much able to just take this through a few different chords in the key of C minor diatonically, and it sounds great. It sounds wonderful. Also, when you're doing something like this that is, just straight eighth notes, arpeggios, having the variation melodically here, as well as with this 7/8 rhythm, is a nice way to make that not feel as static or as stagnant as it might in 4/4 or 3/4 or something more standard like that. So yeah, the first 4 measures, I guess the first 2 and the first 3 are just repeats of each other, and they're just arpeggiating the one chord, which in this instance is C, E flat, and G, our C minor chord. As we go to 5 and 6, we're going to change our chord here to our diminished second. In this key, that's D diminished. That's D, F, and A flat. And you see this little 6 here? That means that we're in an inversion. We actually don't hit the root of our chord, which is D, until later on in the progression, or the 3rd eighth note of these 2 measures of the entire pattern. What else is kind of interesting here? I mean, we're pretty much just taking, again, if you connect the dots, that same exact arpeggio pattern, we're just moving everything up in the scale diatonically to a different chord. Very, very easy. Something that anyone can do. Moving ahead here, before we hit the end of the first half of this riff, measures 7 and 8, we are arpeggiating the 5/7 chord, our dominant 5th chord, in the key of C minor, C natural minor, which includes us having to adjust this B to a B natural. Usually in this key, it's B flat, like I mentioned earlier. But in order to add some tension to resolve back to a root note, you can see this B natural and this C, our root of the key, are just 1 fret away, 1/2 step away. We need to raise that 7th in our key to get some semblance of tension. This is something that happens in harmonic minor naturally, and I don't know, this is a very, very typical thing to see for any minor, adding your dominant 5th chord to add some tension so that we can resolve back to 1. We actually don't resolve back to 1 here though. We resolve to our minor 4 chord, which is a fairly weak resolution, but because we do have that C, that 1/2 step motion happening between the B natural and this C, we do hear some kind of release after this tension. So yeah, measures 9 through 12 are the arpeggio pattern. It is the arpeggio pattern over our minor 4 chord, which is F minor, F, A flat, and C in this key. We have an inversion again. We don't hit F until this 3rd eighth note. And you see here, we actually have a 9th. Okay. Everything up until the 7th measure is just triads, but this dominant 5th chord has 4 notes in it: G, B, natural, D, and F. And this 9th gives us, an added extension over our F minor triad that we have here, which is pretty nice. You can kind of see we're just using this common tone from the 5/7 from the dominant fifth chord into the next few measures, pretty much, instead of moving that to what would be an 8 if we were to follow the pattern exactly verbatim how it was in the first at the very beginning. But yeah, this ninth here is a G. That's the ninth note away from F, F being your first note. And yeah, that's a pretty inconsequential extension to use. It's not really going to tell you too much about what you're tonicizing or what might be, what key you might even be in here. But yeah, it's a nice color tone regardless. Okay. Moving ahead here, measures 13 and 14. We're back to our dominant fifth chord, G7. Okay. Exactly how it was before. And then at the end here, we're in 4/4. Nice. We're coming back to some kind of normalcy with our time signature. It's a nice breath of fresh air as well to see these articulation differences. Everything up until this point has just been like alternate picked arpeggio notes, right? Having this slide, these pull-offs here, which I made sure were correct by watching Misha's playthrough of this. These add some really nice variation for the ear to kind of rest a little bit. Also, this 4/4 cap at the end, measures 15 and 16 of this riff to end the riff off. Again, just allows you to do a little bit more rhythmically cadential in this sense. And you can see here too, we have our B natural again, leading up to that C. That's our like natural seventh and our 1 in the key of C minor, tension and resolve happening here. And we loosely kind of follow the D diminished arpeggio pattern for the first part of this measure that leads us into our little cadence here, our little voice leading thing. One other thing that happens here that's pretty nice too, aside from the articulation and coming back to 4/4 to reset the ear a little bit, this slide and this pull-off motion, and I guess these pull-offs as well, bring us back to the open position where we start this riff and where we're going to as well. Because after this, it just repeats back. The first one is pretty much almost identical guitar-wise to this intro part. And yeah, that resets our positioning so that we're back in third position where we started, rather than, in fifth position here or this seventh or eighth position that we climbed up to earlier. So yeah, that's basically the gist of this riff. Pretty easy, right? You write a really interesting arpeggio pattern. You look at the contour. You make sure that all of the notes of the chord are being used at least once or multiple times per pattern. And I mean, the 7/8 is really what kind of gives this its magic. This accenting pattern of 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 is, again, fairly standard, but the way that it works with the arpeggio makes it pretty satisfying and easy enough to move through different chords in the key. So yeah, that's it. That's Marigold. I might do more of this song later on. I definitely will do other Periphery songs. They're one of my favorite bands. And Mark Holcomb specifically is one of my favorite players. His riffs are so unique, regardless of how horrible his technique is. But yeah, so if you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments. I hope that the production quality on this video is way higher than it was in the past or in my last one. And I'll just continue to tweak things over time. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for songs or video edit ideas, or you want to see me do more general theory lessons as well, let me know and I will be sure to reply to you and get back to you. Cool. See ya.